From South Florida, this is Headliners, only on CBS News Miami.
Hi there and welcome to Headliners. I'm Lauren Pastrana. Several members of Congress now know what a school massacre crime scene looks like firsthand. Last week, they visited Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, where they saw the devastation left behind after a gunman unleashed terror inside the 1200 building. A reenactment of that horrific day was put on as part of a civil lawsuit against former Broward Sheriff's Deputy School Resource Officer Scott Peterson. CBS News Miami's Joan Murray was in Parkland and has the latest for us.
And two big events unfolding today here at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, scene of that horrible mass murder more than 5 years ago. The two events have to do with a tour, and that tour is underway right now. Let's go to some video. So this is being led by area Congressman, Democrat Jared Moskowitz, and Miami's Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart. They are heading up a delegation from Washington. Other U.S. Congresspeople are here to go through the building, basically trace the steps of the shooter. And this is all to get a better understanding of what happened that day. Now, who is behind this? Well, it is Max Schachter. He is parent of Alex Schachter, who was murdered on that day. Max Schachter thought it would be a good idea to have Congress members come here so they could fully appreciate what happened and make change.
I want them to see what happens when you don't prioritize the safety and security of our kids above education. Because what happens is you get dead kids.
Now, after that tour is completed, that is when the next event will begin to unfold, and that is a reenactment, and this is related to a civil lawsuit against former SRO at the school, Scott Peterson. He is being sued in civil court. Remember, he was found not criminally responsible at a trial earlier this year, but he still faces a lot of civil lawsuits. And the lawyers for the families want this reenactment done because they want to prove that Peterson knew what was happening in that building and decided not to go in. Peterson has always maintained that he did not know where the shots were coming from, and that is why he held position outside. Now, this reenactment is going to be videotaped. The hope is it can be eventually showed to a jury in a civil trial who will decide whether Scott Peterson is civilly responsible for what happened. However, there is no guarantee that this is ever going to be shown to a jury because a judge will have to decide whether she wants that to be shown. That will happen at a later time. The judge wanted to get this reenactment out of the way before school begins, which will happen in just a little over 2 weeks' time. In Parkland, Joan Murray, CBS News, Miami.
Property owners in South Florida could be moved from Citizens Property Insurance. That's because private insurers may take over those policies soon. CBS News Miami's Yvonne Taylor spoke with a Citizens representative and a concerned homeowner about this issue and what it means for your wallet.
I'm very concerned.
Nancy Morales says she does not like change, especially when it comes to protection for her home. She may very well be one of the thousands policyholders Citizens Property Insurance will shed in October to go to a private insurer. She has a valid concern.
They may charge me more for the same coverage I'm getting with Citizens.
Tallahassee legislators gave the green light to move Citizens policies into the private market due to the financial risk associated with more hurricanes like Ian or Nicole, which battered Florida.
They've approved up to 184,000 of those to take place in October.
Michael Peltier is the Public Information Officer for Citizens. He says through the Office of Insurance Regulation, a state-run agency, is how the process started.
Companies have gone to the Office of Insurance Regulation to request to take policies out of Citizens Property Insurance.
And here's the other motive. Citizens policy count skyrocketed from 486,000 in 2020 to 1.34 million up to last month. On Monday, Insurance Commissioner Michael Jaworski signed an order approving the proposal from these private insurance companies. Two of them are based out of Tampa, with the highest number of possible holders. Peltier explains how the program would work.
If the premium is more than 20% of what the Citizens policy is, the policyholder can stay with Citizens.
Let's say someone pays, I'm going to say $3,000. So if the offer that comes in is 20% more, the customer can say no. I don't want it. But if it's less than 20% and the customer says, I still want to stay with Citizen, they don't have that option.
That's correct.
I paid $4,600 a year for the homeowners insurance right now.
Morales hopes she's among the ones who will stay with her policy. For now, she has to wait. Citizens Property Insurance tells me that before the end of the month, some of their policy holders will be getting a letter in the mail stating that their policy was picked up by a private insurer. If that is the case, you must be on the lookout to discuss any doubts with that provider. Good luck. In Southwest Miami-Dade, Ivan Taylor, CBS News, Miami.
Staying on the housing front, we've reported on property unaffordability in South Florida for years, but help is out there that you might not even know about. CBS News Miami's Gabriela Arzola breaks down programs that can save you thousands of dollars.
The demand has not fully slowed down.
While other states have had a decrease in real estate sales, home buying in South Florida has been anything but easy. Even with the feds raising interest rates last week, on average, home interest rates are around 6.5%.
Don't think that it's not a good time to buy, and don't think that there's nothing out there for you.
Christina Pappas is the president of the Kai's Company and says the demand for people wanting to live in South Florida isn't going away or even slowing down. The issue is the high demand and the lack of inventory. It's been such a problem that new numbers from the U.S. Census show that for the first time in 50 years, more people left Miami-Dade County than those who moved in. But Pappas says there are some programs out there that can help. One of the newer programs is the Hometown Hero. Aimed for first-time home buyers, you could get up to $35,000 for your down payment if you're an educator, frontline worker, in the medical field, child care employee, even many government jobs qualify. Florida First is another program for first-time home buyers where buyers can get a lower mortgage insurance cost. And finally, the Salute Our Soldiers program is where qualified active duty and veterans can receive an even lower rate than Florida First, and you don't even have to be a first-time home buyer to take advantage of the program.
It's always a good idea to jump in, to see what's out there and get creative.
I'm Gabriela Arzola, CBS News, Miami.
When we come back, more heat and even more delays at the DMV. What's causing the frustrating backups? Next.
South Florida, this is Headliners, only on CBS News Miami.
Welcome back. I'm Lauren Pastrana. The South Florida summer heat is on, and a new study suggests Miami is one of the hottest concrete jungles in the entire nation, and it's because of something called urban heat island effect. Next, Weather Chief Meteorologist Ivan Cabrera joins us with an explanation.
Well, I know we have been appreciating the cooler temperatures here, but I want to talk about what is called the heat urban island effect, and that's going to come back at us as we head into the weekend, as we've been forecasting higher temperatures coming up. So here is the cityscape of Miami. Obviously, when you are near these concrete buildings, they are going to absorb all the radiation from the sun throughout the day, all that heat. That is going to be contained within these structures, so you live anywhere around tall buildings, densely populated metro areas. Even at night, we don't tend to cool off. Just like when you put something in the oven, it takes a while for it to cool off. Well, this is radiating. The buildings are radiating heat through the overnight hours. So the cycle continues. We don't get to cool off before the sun comes back. Then all of a sudden, we are heating up all over again. Perhaps we have temperatures well into the 90s, and the buildings add extra heat. Our friends at Climate Central provided us up with this chart. This is generally what happens not just during the day, but at night. Look at the much higher temperatures when you are in an industrial area and an area very densely populated with buildings. This is specifically for South Florida. The closer you are to places like downtown, heading into Brickell, that is where it is estimated anywhere from 7 to as high as 8.3 degrees warmer than areas that have a lot of foliage, a lot of parks. So as we continue to thrive here in South Florida and continue to develop, the key to mitigation and to allow temperatures not to get out of control is to have more and more green spaces.
The lines are growing outside DMV offices across South Florida, and things are not expected to change anytime soon. In fact, the state agency in charge of confirming appointments to get driver's licenses says it cancels thousands a day. According to the agency, part of the problem is groups hoarding and selling appointments. CBS News Miami's Larry Seward reports.
16-year-old Ashley Riesco is running out of time. In 3 weeks, her only ride to school and work leaves for college, and the odds of this student driver scoring her own license to drive before then seem longer than lines wrapped around any DMV office.
I was staying up till like 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the mornings, just refreshing, hoping I would see an appointment, but I never saw any availability. And I did that for like 3 weeks, and I was like, this is way too much.
Florida's Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles knows about delays and a third-party hustle that authorities say takes advantage of the situation.
I could not get any appointment at the DMV, and it was just like the last option.
Riesco's friends told her about driving schools that book appointments to students for an extra $100 or more. One of them promised Ashley a spot Tuesday afternoon.
He said, here's the time, and then it's like a 10-minute test. And then after that, they give you a certificate, and you head to the DMV and get a renewal license appointment.
In a statement, a DMV spokesperson says they are aware that third-party appointment brokers reserve free driver license appointments, then attempt to resell them. They are taking advantage of the situation and making appointment backlogs worse.
That's just like crazy that the DMV is just so overbooked that third parties are making a lot of money off of teenagers with the driving test. Like, I know a lot of people that are going to the driving school because they just can't like get any appointment.
To attack problems, DMV staff cancels about 1,000 fictitious appointments a day, they say. While Riesco has an appointment confirmed Tuesday, the DMV cannot guarantee people who buy spots will actually get in. So it's buyer beware. In Miami Gardens, Larry Seward, CBS News, Miami.
When we come back, the Miami Marlins hosting a softball game for the media, and our own Trish Christakis stepped up to the plate. We show you how she did after the break.
From South Florida, this is Headliners, only on CBS News Miami.
Welcome back. I'm Lauren Pastrana. Happening now, the pent-up desire to travel during the pandemic has more and more people on the move. Tourists are vacationing in Florida's backyard, even during what was once seen as the slow season. The result is big travel numbers for the Caribbean islands. But as CBS News Miami's Hank Tester reports, One Island Nation is not part of the trend.
Airports are overflowing. Americans are traveling, flying out to Europe, typical summer destinations, but also the Caribbean.
I wanna get away.
Summers in the Caribbean traditionally have been the slow season. Not so much anymore.
The DR, Jamaica, the Bahamas having very good summers with their good air traffic and, flights from all over the world.
Many of the islands are getting tourist traffic that equals or exceeds the pre-pandemic boom travel years.
And so the DR now is seeing historic levels of tourism to the tune of now they're probably going to reach about 8 million people just by air this year, which would be the largest total in the country's history.
Tourism these days is often measured on how well the sector has rebounded from the pandemic. The DR had few restrictions and opened back up very early. Not the case in Cuba.
It's still not where they were before the pandemic, which was, over 4 million visitors a year.
Cuba's hopes were for tourism in 2022 would generate 2.5 million visitors, but only a little over 1 million visited the island. During the first quarter of 2023, 1.2 million tourists have made it to Cuba, which is a 50% recovery from 2019. Cuba opened up later than other Caribbean nations. During the pandemic, their major source of tourism, Canada, had shut her borders. Now,
the Canadian tour operators are planning a major push to Cuba this winter.
That despite Cuba's issues with lack of hotel rooms, fuel issues, the U.S. embargo, which restricts significant American visitors, Cubans are looking to the Russians, who have promised to provide massive economic aid, including increased tourist flights in to Cuba.
I'm not sure it's going to make any massive dent in their recovery.
To bolster their strong tourism numbers, the Bahamas is specifically targeting promotional efforts aimed at potential South Florida travelers, especially new arrivals who might not realize the islands are just minutes away by air. Hank Tester, CBS News, Miami.
And finally, the Miami Marlins making some moves as they battle for a chance at the postseason. Last week, the team hosted a media softball game. The CBS Miami team made an impact on the field. Our Trish Christakis steps up to the plate with more.
CBS Miami Sports Department, we brought the take red team down.
CBS Sports Miami came to dominate today in the Marlins media softball game. There were some pep talks.
You were born for this, you were made for this.
Some hits. And an error or two.
They say the ball always finds the ball player. Well, the ball found her, and what happened? What happened here, Sam?
It just didn't work out, okay?
Lewis, what about that home run you gave up?
Well, yeah, that was an ugly home run I gave up. It was.
But we finally got on the board with an RBI from yours truly.
And who had the first run again?
I believe that was Trish, the Greek goddess, Christakis.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Pleasure doing business with you.
And the man of the game, our sports videographer, Louis Zabala, with a home run to get us within a few.
I was just concentrating on get the first strike over and then work my secondary pitches. Now I know what Sandy Alcantara feels like.
We got into a bit of a jam, down by a decent amount.
And the game plan would be to bring a whole new outfield into the mix.
But a couple runs later, and we closed the gap.
FaceTimed with my brother last night. He plays baseball. And he was giving me batting lessons. First at bat, RBI. This one, I gotta make Dean, I'm gonna make you proud. I'm gonna try.
Although the TV reporters ended up falling in the end, the athletes, of course, proud of their efforts despite the loss.
Mike, how do you feel today's game went? You guys had a terrible loss, including myself.
Yeah, disappointing. Our third base coach was just waving people around randomly.
Stop.
People were getting picked off in the last innings,
No.
the last outs. She's about this high, blondish brown hair, was wearing green pants and a white shirt. If you see her.
Who knew the print writers could rake?
Who knew? Honestly, like they were just in it. They were in it to win it.
And the Marlins did make some trades this week. None of the writers made the cut, but we had fun regardless.
Thank you. I just want to say that I want to thank all my teammates. They did a really good job behind me, and the umpire was fantastic in this game. Just fantastic. The strike zone was right on.
At Lone Depot Park, Trish Christakis, CBS News, Miami.
Looks like a good time. Thanks for joining us this half hour on Headliners. As always, keep it right here to CBS News Miami for up-to-the-minute breaking news and weather 24 hours a day. Make it a great one.